Hey everyone, welcome to the Christian Employers Benefits Podcast, brought to you by Imago Day Insurance Advisors. So today I want to talk to you something about networks. So what are networks in health insurance? Everyone talks about networks, right? We're concerned about being in network. Is this in network? Is this out of network? Whose network are we on? Are we on Blue Cross's network? Are we on Cigna's network? Are we on MultiPlan? What network are we on? Why do we ask that question? Well, in the typical arrangement, of the way that this works is your insurance carrier has contracted with certain hospitals or doctors, different people, in order to prearrange the pricing that they're going to charge for different procedures. So everything in the medical field has a code and associated to the type of care that you receive. So if you use said code, it will charge X amount of dollars. Well, in a network situation, so saying that it's in network, what that means is you actually have a prearranged contract with that, we'll say with that hospital for this procedure through insurance. So if someone comes in, files a claim, or someone comes in, receives that procedure, the hospital will file a claim with your insurance carrier at whatever the contracted rate is. That is your in-network rate. Out of network is when you try to go somewhere that your insurance carrier hasn't connected with. So say you go to Billy Bob Doctor down the road and Billy Bob hasn't contracted with your insurance carrier and he charges them whatever he charges them. The insurance carrier considers that an out of network cost because they have no direct relationship with that person. So why does all of this matter? Well, part of it is, I think, a misunderstanding. When you have a large carrier, again, let's say you're Blue Cross, United, Cigna, Aetna, one of these large carriers. So say you're contracted with one of them for your insurance for your employers or for your employees. I think the belief is that because they're so big that they get the best prices possible in their contracts with people, so that there's this benefit to being on Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas because the contracts that they've made with the hospital down the road is the best pricing because they can use just their massive size to kind of force their will upon a hospital system or whatever to get you the best pricing. And honestly, that's kind of the message that they tell people is, hey, look at us. We're going to get you. Our network's great. It's huge. It's massive. Everyone's in our network. And we're going to make sure that you got the best prices. The reality is that's not true. So these major carriers, part of the way that they kind of market themselves is through the idea of how big their networks are. Well, a lot of the ways in which they have these big networks is actually by wining and dining the hospital system. And part of what they do is not actually get you the best price. They end up overpaying to win the hospital system or the doctors to their network. And so they'll overpay so that way those people will come in. Because I mean, say you have multiple employers coming to you as a potential hire. So I'm looking between a couple of companies who I'm going to get hired to. Well, I may pick that employer A over employer B because his salary is going to be higher than the other. Well, that's kind of the same situation here. Why would I go with you and be in network with you versus someone else? And it's like, well, we're going to pay you more than the other person's going to pay you. And that's kind of how they sealed the deal. So it actually works in reverse than what I think most people believe. So that's kind of this idea of networks. Now, there's a new way to do this. Well, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's newer in the fact of carriers doing this, but it's called reference-based pricing. So a reference-based pricing model functions like Medicare. So if you didn't know, the way that Medicare works is there's a Medicare rate. So Medicare is run by the government. The government does in fact have tremendous sway on this, and they're able to go into any doctor or place and say, this is how much we're going to pay you. And they just go, okay. So that's the Medicare rate. That's what they believe is fair, and that's what they charge. And it's standard. It doesn't change based on hospitals or doctors. It's the same everywhere. It's a standard reference. Reference-based pricing works similarly in which they pay a multiple on Medicare. So the way their contracts work is they will say, hey, hospital X, we see this is your Medicare price. We're willing to pay you 1.5 times the Medicare price for this procedure. Many places will accept that. But that's not the way that your Blue Crosses, your United Healths work. Sometimes they're paying 250 times the amount of what Medicare is, or 5 times the amount of Medicare, or whatever. They're paying tremendously high for those things. Reference-based pricing says we're going to pay you what's fair for the service that you have. So they work in more of a direct contracting basis. So they will make direct contracts with those places to pay. And a lot of times, if they can't have a long lasting relationship with that hospital or whatever, they'll reach out on your behalf to do a one-time arrangement to pay for that service at a fair price. So why does this matter? When does this come into play? Well, this saves tremendous amount of money. So if you realize that if you're paying basically fair rates for services, it's going to save the plan a tremendous amount of money over time, which means that they can charge you less for their plan than some of the others. So I've had this happen before where I've told people what the pricing is for some of the plans and how the plans are set. And they'll look at me like I have a third eye and ask how that's even possible. It feels like a scam. And the reality is that's not the scam. The current system is the actual scam. You just haven't realized that it's built that way. So the reference-based pricing model is what it looks like when you're actually being fair and honest in your dealings. That's what it looks like. And because of how bad things are, you're actually able to look at it and go, wow. I mean, I would save a lot of money if I did it this way. And yes, you probably would. So reference-based pricing for me is something that I just consider to be fair and honest in how the plan works. And they would be what is considered an open network. They don't function necessarily. Sometimes they have some plans associated. Multi-plan is a plan that usually is paired with reference-based pricing where they have contracts in place. But we can just call them open network, which means that you can go anywhere. You can go to any doctor that you need to go to, and they can do one-off arrangements, one-off contracts, and pay a percentage of Medicare in order to get you a fair and honest price. This saves you a ton of money as an individual. This saves you a ton of money as a business. If you are a business that's looking to go ahead and bring on a new plan, reference-based pricing is something that you may want to look at. It comes with a little more effort unless you have the right partners in place who will help you with that, but it would save you so much money. I know employers who have saved millions of dollars just from making that change to their plan. So something worth looking at. It's something worth understanding. So as when we think about networks in the forms of contracts, and think about how contracts are actually made and done. So when we look at our plan, we want to have honest dealings. We want to have honest dealings. Part of that is to be transparent and not to have hidden contracts that we don't know. So luckily with ACA and some of the transparency laws they brought in, it requires hospitals and doctors to put their cash pay prices on their website. So you can actually compare what it is if you were to pay cash for something versus what it would be if you were to use your insurance's contracted rate. So you may not want to do this for fun like I do, but if you want to check it out and see, you can actually go Google it yourself. Go look it up and see what the local hospital down the road is charging cash versus what their contracted rates are. And most of the time you'll be pretty caught off guard by how different those things are. But if you want to have this conversation more, you want to look at it, you want to see what your plan looks like, please reach out. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks so much.